Hey there, you're welcome to another tutorial on SCTuts, and I'll be showing you how to mix your beats like industry producers for free using only stock plugins. Okay, we're looking at the 5 steps that will help you achieve this result, whether you're new to mixing or you spend some time mixing but you're still finding it hard to get that pro and clean and balanced sound for your beats. Okay, so let's start with the obvious one, which is leveling your beats. Now, many people think leveling your beats just simply means they all have to be on the same volume, which sounds like that's how it should be, but that's really not it. Leveling your beat just simply means prioritizing the elements you want to hear more of and adjusting the elements you don't want to hear a lot of. For example, let me solo my drums. I recommend you start with your drums when you're mixing, because that's one of the easiest places to start, because your drums drive the groove of your production. So when I play this, let me turn this on my shaker loop. So from what I can hear, right, I could kind of hear the rim shots sounding a bit too loud. Let me turn it off. So you just simply find out the elements that sound too quiet or too low in your beats and adjust them. All right. So an easy way for you to be able to gauge the perfect loudness level is taking this all the way down, then bring it up gradually till it sounds good enough for you. And we'll do that with all the other elements. Let's turn on our chord progression. So for our chord, we'll adjust the volume again. Now, it doesn't have to be, a drastic increase or reduction. Okay, just 1 dB can make a huge difference when it comes to leveling your beats. Okay, and then we turn on the next most recurring sound, which seems to be this part right here. So you can hear it sounds, a bit more balanced now, right? Then we'll go to the next most recurring sound. Turn this other one on. So I'd like to hear more of that string. So I'm simply going to, I would not recommend you go above the 0 dB mark. Okay. So to increase the volume, we're just going to load up a compressor and just use the gain knob. We're not going to compress the strings. We're just using the gain knob right here. You can hear that sounds better, right? Then let's turn this on and see. That's also another string. Same thing. I want it to be a bit more, audible. Like I said, balancing is simply, prioritizing the sounds you want to hear. Okay, so just increase this. Then let's see what's going on right here. So this is how it sounds before balancing. And this is how it sounds after balancing. So the second thing you can do to make your beat mix sound pro like industry producers is cutting out, the muddy low end. This will help provide more clarity in your beat and also help create more headroom so your beats can sound louder without distortion. Okay. So we'll start with the drums. I always recommend you start with the drums because it's one of the easiest places to start from if you're new to, mixing. So we'll come to the kick, load up an EQ. Now you have to be careful when you're cutting out the low end. Okay, you don't want to take out the life of the sound. Like you just want to cut out, just enough that you can still hear the full body. Okay. You can see if I turn it off, you can still hear the body of the kick, right, without compromising, the weight of the kicks, but it just takes out the frequency you can hear. Okay. So we'll do that also for, all the elements in here, even for our rim shots as well. So do the same thing, high pass, step 8. Turn it off and on to compare. Like I said, you don't want to have or make it sound like, the change is drastic. Then we turn on the shaker. Then the main chords. Then we just keep doing that for all the elements. So when I turn the EQ and let all the low end come in, this is how it sounds like. So the third thing you can do to make your beat mix sound more like industry professionals is using the pan tool. This will help create width and space in your mix. Okay, so if you want more clarity, you want more space, more wideness, want your beats to sound like it spreads through the speakers, you need to know how to pan correctly. And while there's a lot that can be said about panning, I'm going to share with you, some really helpful and practical tips when it comes to panning. First, let's start with the drums. Okay, now for your drums, typically I recommend for kicks, 808s, sub bass frequencies or sounds that have sub bars. Okay, sub bass frequencies, that's frequencies below 50 hertz. I recommend you leave them in the middle. Okay, they should stay in the middle. Okay, so we're going to leave the kick in the middle. Okay, and if you have any percussion that has maybe it sounds like more or less like a sub bass, you should leave that in the middle as well for the most part. All right, then for our snares, rim shots, percussions. Now if you have a snare or rim shot like I do right here, you can leave it in the middle if it's just one. But if you have maybe several snares and rim shots, you can pan them, plus left or right 10%. Okay, 10% is a good range. Right here, I'm going to leave my rim shots just in the middle because it's just one rim shot I have. Then for my percussions like the shaker, I can pan this, left or right, up to 15-20%. Okay, so let's take this right here. And typically, the wider you pan, right, the more space you have. So if your production is minimal like this, I would not recommend you pan too wide so that your production does not end up sounding thin and sounding like it lacks body. Okay, so but if you have like a dense production, you can even pan up to as much as 30, 40, or even 50%. Okay, so I'm going to leave this at just 20%. Then for my chords, let's start with the drums. Then for the chords, if you have just a single chord, you can leave your chord in the middle, or you can pan it left or right. For chords, most times I recommend having up to like 15-20% left or right. That's if you're not going to leave it in the middle. So let me just pan this somewhere here and see. So next we'll go to, if you have a counter melody or a counter chord, you should look for that. And let's see if we have that in here. So this more or less sounds like a counter, so pan is in opposite direction to our chord. So take it here. And also when you pan, it's normal for the volume to to change, so it's okay to adjust the volume. And if you have a lead melody like I do right here, you can leave it in the middle or pan it slightly left or right. Okay, you don't want to go too far to too far to the left or too far to the right. Okay, so I'm going to leave mine in the middle. So I have this right here. Let's see what's going on here. Pan is in opposite direction. And then bring this on. Then this is our bass. It's going to stay in the middle. Now, the fourth step you can take to make your beat sound more pro and translate across different speakers is using reverb and delay to create some separation between your instruments and melodies. For example, right here, I have this chord right here. Let me solo my drums and my chords. And if I have this right here again. So if you hear this instrument, there's a little bit of reverb in it that kind of creates some separation. You can hear the reverb tail sustain. So let me open up the plugin because there's an inbuilt reverb in the plugin. So let me turn off the plugin and then we hear how it sounds when the reverb is turned off. So if I turn off the reverb right here, and I think there's also an echo and delay here. If I turn it off, let's see how it sounds. You can hear that sounds dry compared to this. So let's see how it sounds with our chord when that is off. You can hear that, right? The separation isn't much anymore compared to this. So you can hear how, something as little or as subtle as that reverb can help create separation between our instruments. So using reverb and delay moderately can help create separation. So it may not just be your chords and your chord layer or your pad. It could be between your chords and the lead melody, or just an instrument that, it sounds like it's falling behind or lacking behind in the mix. You can use reverb and delay to give it its own space, make it sound, give it that 3D feel. So the fifth step you can take to make your beat sound even more professional is using a compressor. Now, the reason why a compressor is so important is if you have live sounds or vocal chops or even bass lines that sound like it's inconsistent with the loudness level, you will need a compressor to kind of tame that inconsistency so it sounds better overall, okay, and it makes it more pleasant for the average listener, okay, because trust me, every listener does not want to be surprised, with volumes midway into the song, okay. It should be fairly predictable. So for example, if I play this bass line, I want you to take note of this bass line right here. You can hear how this bass kind of exaggerates. Now, while this is MIDI, I can easily fix this if it's MIDI, but let's assume it's an audio file, right? So what you just do is just link this to your mixer, okay? Then load up your compressor and simply compress it, okay? Let's start halfway. I like to start halfway and have my ratio up to about 4, okay? And then let's listen. So let's have the whole context. Now you may lose volume when you compress. That is normal. Just simply increase the gain. So let's reduce the threshold some more and increase the ratio. Now we're lacking some bars, okay, so we have to relax the threshold a little bit. If I turn it off, you can hear that difference, right? With the compressor, it also brings up the lowest part of the sound, try to make it as even as possible. Now, it's not going to be 100% even, but it's going to be, the inconsistency is going to be a lot less, noticeable. So these are the steps I recommend you take to polish up your beats to make it sound more professional like industry producers. And if you'd like to learn more in-depth techniques, tips, and tricks on how to polish up your production overall and even vocals as well, I do have a full mixing course that you can get by clicking the link in the description of this video. If you found this helpful, like and follow for more. I'm Mr. Classy. This is SCTuts. Cheers.